Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead. I'm your host, Ken Jacobs of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching. You probably know that. And you also know at this point that Taking the Lead is our video podcast where I get to interview great leaders from the world of PR, comms, marketing, advertising. We don't talk all that much about PR marketing and advertising or comms. We talk mostly about the science and especially the art of leadership, of developing followership, of getting done what you need to get done for yourself, for your organization, for your teams, your peers, your boss if you have one, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very excited to welcome to the podcast someone whose organization made some news in the first quarter of Q1. It's Cortney Stapleton. She is now the Chief Strategy and Business Officer of Highwire. Many of you crossed paths with her when she was the CEO or managing partner or owner of the Bliss Group and chairwoman of Next Text Communications. That's harder to say than it looked in print. So we want to welcome to Taking the Lead, Cortney Stapleton.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. We're going to jump right in.
Okay.
Question we ask just about all our guests because, leadership legacy is so important and leadership inspiration. So I want to ask you the three leaders who've most influenced you and briefly tell us why.
That's a great question and something I talk a lot about, actually. You mentioned legacy, and the first leader that really influenced me directly and completely was John Bliss. So the Bliss Group is 50 years old. John Bliss was the founder, founded it in 1975. I talk about John quite a bit. He was fair, he was honest, he was a kind leader, but he was very much a show, don't tell leader. And he was the first person in my career who really said, go do it, right? So I'm not going to put anyone over you. I'm not going to kind of limit your potential. I want you to just go and do. And I think he was really the first person that saw me and my leadership potential and sort of had confidence in me that translated into the confidence I brought into leadership at a very young age. The second person was Jerry Walsh, who was my first real boss in public relations. He taught me really that age didn't matter. And so if I knew the media and what was interesting, I always had something to say in the room at, in my early 20s. And so I really embodied that in my leadership style going forward, which was go and do. You can do anything. It doesn't matter how old you are. And then the last person that influenced me really was a team. And so when I first became CEO, I also announced that launch with an executive leadership team, the first sort of created at Bliss. And it was those people that I would say I also really credit for helping me become the leader I was. In partnering with them, and of course my longtime partner Michael Roth, who really influenced me as a leader. I like to say he is my coach, and I am his when it comes to leadership. I think really having somebody who is completely honest with you and sees your flaws and also your strengths is important.
Absolutely. And I know two of the three, John Bliss. So I've talked on the podcast a few times about the leadership inspiration of Jean Way Schoonover, true agency glass ceiling breaker, along with her sister Barbara Way Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually on the board of John's first agency. So
That's awesome.
I got to meet John.
Come full
When I
circle.
think of John, I think what a gentleman. What a
Yes.
gentleman, right?
Consummate
And
professional
what a
gentleman.
gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
What a gentleman too.
Yes.
So those
He
words
was
make sense.
truly
Got to give
special.
it tip of the hat to Michael Roth.
Yes.
Just great guy. Known him forever. Um,
Truly.
so yeah. And I think it is about legacy and knowing who inspired us because that leads us, I think, to be the kind of leader who inspires. So speaking of inspiration, what are the three leadership tenets that have guided your career?
So I would say that the first tenet really is about giving people opportunity and seeing what they'll do with it. I think the second one is about understanding your own leadership gaps, your weaknesses, as well as your strengths, and being open about it. And surrounding yourself with other leaders who can complement you and fill some of those gaps. You make each other sort of better leaders together, and it makes for sort of a complete leadership package. And I think it's probably one of the hardest things for leaders to accept and then to do. And then I think the third one that's really guided my career is always be learning and always be teaching. Everybody always has the always be learning part, right? But I also think it's really important, right? They say you never really truly master something until you teach it. You should always be teaching somebody something, and you should always be being taught. And I think when we open ourselves to making sure that you have both sides of that equally, that's where you truly become a great leader.
Very, very true. I mean, I've heard the always be learning. I've come across some leaders who have forgotten that, so maybe this will be a reminder to them. But the new idea of teaching, because I'll give a tip of the hat to George Rosenberg, who was my coach years ago.
Mm.
And this one was digital was all coming, and Twitter was brand new, and everything
Mm.
else. I said, George, I don't want to be that guy. I want to master this, or at least get an initial knowledge.
Yeah.
And he said, figure out if you can write
Mm.
a syllabus for a course, for an
Mm-hmm.
intro to social media. And the knowledge you'll gain by being able to do that will really put you on your way. So
I love that.
very, 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 very true. Um, all leaders, if they're being honest, and you've seen some of our podcasts, we really encourage our
Yeah.
leaders to be honest, have doubts. Please share a moment when you had some deep doubt about my lead, am I a
Mm-hmm.
leader or did I
Mm-hmm.
mess up or and how you got yourself out.
So I think the honest answer is I probably make a mistake every day. And any leader that says that they don't is lying. So there's many moments where I look back in the moment, right after the moment, and I say, oh dear, that wasn't my best, or that I probably should have made a different decision. But I think if I'm, in the spirit of being super honest, I originally didn't want to be the CEO of the Bliss Group. I was the owner and I co-owned it with Michael Roth, but I think it was whether it was a crisis of confidence or, I just felt like I wasn't after CEO to me was always about like a sort of a power play. And I wasn't after power. I was after influence. I wanted to be influential in the team's lives, the clients' lives, and kind of focusing on the influence. And I overcame that because I was actually doing the job. And so, as John Bliss always said, you get the title or the raise or the promotion when you're doing the job above you. And I looked at Michael Roth one day and he looked at me and he said, you are the CEO. You already are. So why don't you just be the title? And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I think it was really important as well in the evolution of the agency at that moment to be the CEO, to take the title, to work with the executive leadership team and embody that for Bliss. And so I'm really, really happy that I did it. I'm, proud of the work that we did and that I did. But at first, I really did feel like that wasn't, going to be what I was going to do and wasn't my path. But it did take, folks like Michael and others to kind of be like, you're already doing it. So
He was being a great coach to you, right?
he was.
But
He was.
but I think you raise a really important point that I think some CEOs or presidents or whatever think that leadership is about the title or about the power or the
Right.
corner office. And it's not, to your point, to
It's
really
really
lead.
not.
It's about
It has
influence.
nothing to do with that,
There's
actually.
nothing to do with that. Exactly. Though I think no names, our industry is rife with executives who unfortunately think it's about that.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at leadership that way, the influence you have on all those audiences you mentioned, it opens the door to something we've talked about before, which is that you don't have to wait till you're CEO or president
Right.
or managing partner to be a leader. You
Right.
can look for those opportunities, and the opportunities, if
Yes.
you're looking, will show themselves where you can persuade others.
Right.
And, so start looking for those. So, Q1, the Bliss Group was acquired by Highwire, and joining two cultures can be challenging for leadership. And admittedly, having been through a merger, it can be frightening years ago. It can be frightening for team members. So, without giving away secrets or give away some trade secrets, what are you doing as a leader to
Yeah.
make this as smooth as possible? I don't know if it can be smooth, but let's say smooth as possible,
Hmm.
and to reassure team members.
Yeah. So change is scary. There's no way around it, right? It's change is epic, and most people don't like change. So I have tried to be as transparent as possible with our teams and clients and everyone. I am a pretty transparent leader as it is. And so I felt like we had to be really transparent in all of this. And so we built Bliss on being smart and kind. And I really intend to bring that kind of, moniker to Highwire. I think, to be honest, we found that when we were discussing our culture, our values with Highwire, they were talking to us and we were saying, oh, us too. And then we would talk to them and they'd be like, oh, yeah, us too. And so in the very first conversation we ever had with Highwire, we talked deeply about culture, which actually made both of us separately, we talked afterwards, feel really good that it was so similar. It was, founded by three women 18 years ago. I became a partner with my original two partners, Megan Elizabeth, and then we brought in, Michael Roth. And so there was a lot of similarities in that. Um, it is still a meritocracy very much at its core, as are we, but a place that promotes from within and where we're focused on developing talent here. And so I always talk about how I reinvented my career at Bliss 4 times, which is why I stayed here. I was able to do that. It allowed me to do that. And I talked a lot about that with the Highwire folks. And there's a lot of people there who have a lot of tenure, just like at Bliss. And so to me, that spoke volumes about the type of place it was. And so this merger, or acquisition, but this merger of cultures allows our people even more opportunity to really evolve and grow and have more places to reinvent. And that was something that we were really after, right? This was a combination for growth, not a combination for consolidation in any way that either firm had to do, right? This was something where we wanted to accelerate, and that's why we came together. And so we are really trying to talk to people about those opportunities. There's always going to be things to work out, but I think we had a really good starting place, which I don't know that either of us would have done it without that. I think that really was that cultural similarity was the core of why we did this transaction.
Yeah. Well, culture drives everything. Culture
Everything.
trumps strategy, I think, every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I want to hone in on one thing that you
Yeah.
said, which is about transparency.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes leaders are afraid to be transparent because they're afraid it will put their followers into a tizzy. Well, we've often talked about
Yeah.
fear is not a good business strategy. So we've got double fear going on there.
Right.
And the reality, according to the Neuro Leadership Institute, highly respected, is that when leaders and organizations are more transparent, when
Hmm.
they explain the reasons behind the decisions, when they say there's a bumpy road ahead, or this is how we're performing, it's not where we want to be, etc. And here's our path forward, it actually creates a feeling of psychological safety.
Right.
Psychological
Yeah.
safety, the exact opposite of what we as leaders
Right.
sometimes think
Right.
will be the case if we share. So we encourage in our coaching, we
Yeah.
encourage our clients who are leaders
Yeah.
to share.
Yeah.
Never let them see you sweat. Never
Right.
let them see you sweat. Don't
Right.
overshare. Never share your worry. It's always got to be
Yeah.
with a vision and confidence and boldness.
Yeah.
But if there's bad news, let them know.
Right.
Let them know. It's
And share
okay.
with boldness, but not sugarcoating, right? Either. I don't
Yeah.
also want
Yeah.
to be I mean, I'm a cheerleader, but I don't want to over cheer, right? It's very much, and I will say in this transaction, our entire executive leadership team knew from day one. We brought them into the process, which is
Mhm.
highly unusual in these kinds of
Yes.
instances. But it was very important to me and to my partner that we bring them into this decision because this is about their future too. And so while it was unorthodox and unusual, it was very important that we were transparent from before we even started talking to anyone about this acceleration, that they were part of the process and the interview. I mean, they are culture carriers. They've all been here a very long time and care very
Yeah.
deeply about Bliss and our clients and our team. And so we wanted to make sure that all of them felt very good about what we were doing. And I think that while unusual, it made all the difference in the
I'm sure.
smoothness of the transaction.
I'm sure. Something you said earlier, and just again, you reiterated it again. I think if a client is doing an interview for agencies or interviewing
Yeah.
agencies, ask how long, how many have been there 3 years, how many five, how many 8 years, how many 10? Because I believe those firms that have people who've been around
Yeah.
for a while, that
Yeah.
says something about their culture.
Yeah.
And that says that this is probably an agency that gives opportunity to people,
Right.
that allows them to reinvent themselves, that allows
Yeah.
them to try new things. And if you can find a firm where that's the case,
Yeah.
you're just going to have a much better outcome. You're going
Yeah.
to have
And it's
creative
unusual. There's
strategic.
always one
It
or two,
is.
right? There's always one or
Yeah,
two people.
yeah, yeah.
Our entire leadership team, which is like 7, 8 people, right? On the Bliss side,
Yeah.
have all been here over 10 years.
Wow.
So it's really unusual. And Highwire had the same. A lot of people I've been talking to at the senior level are like, oh, yeah, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years. And I think for me, that was also very telling and very
Yeah.
important because, we aren't these huge organizations. And I know some of these huge organizations, and they don't have very many people at the very senior level. So that have been there
No.
a long time.
No. Yeah. No, no, no. Agreed. So you're a founding member
Mhm.
of Exponent Women,
Yeah.
which raises senior women deal makers
Yes.
to a new power. Well, I'm not going to quite ask you about that, but what's your counsel to newly
Mm,
minted women leaders to sort of embrace and take their in a
yeah.
good way,
Well,
embrace
it's
their power?
funny. That is really what Exponent is about helping once you get to that senior leadership moment and you can give business to other people and make these connections, owning it and doing it. We actually have a podcast on this, with Kathy Rennie at NYU,
Oh, sure.
which,
I know, Kat. Hi,
yeah,
shout out to Kathy Rennie.
shout out, love her. Where we talk a lot about this too, as well. And so I would say for some of those newly minted leaders, a little bit back to the focus on some of the tenets of leadership, but know what you're good at. I say that sometimes in a leader's journey, there's a moment for highest and best, right? We can all be teaching and learning and trying new things and reinventing. And sometimes there's moments where you just have to focus on your highest and best. What is you as a leader, the skill you have that is unique to you and special? And so really owning that, embodying that, and know when you kind of flip that switch into, I need to focus here right now as a leader. And then you
Mm,
can go into a mode of teaching, learning, reinventing at other times. And I think that for newly minted leaders, sometimes that can feel uncomfortable. And I would advise folks to really think about that, focus on it, even write it down. Be like, here's where I think I'm really good at. Here's what I'd like to learn. Here's what I think I can teach other people. And just kind of always keep that as your own sort of personal leadership roadmap. Um, don't shy away from your normal tendencies, right? Like embrace some of that. That is okay. I feel like some people think, well, what got me here isn't going to get me there. I hear that a lot with leaders. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but really be intentional about it then, because I would argue that what got you there may actually get you to the next level if you lean in on it, find the instances where that unique skill can really propel you forward. I would also say that when people give you criticism, right, or feedback or constructive feedback, work with it. Don't accept it as defeat. I always treated it as a challenge. That's just my personality. Like I sort of would be like, okay, I accept that. I see that. And then I would internalize that in a way that really flipped it into grit. It was, I was just not going to fail. And maybe that comes from my upbringing and my actual need to pay student loans and put myself through grad school and all those kinds of things. But I do think that that kind of internal grit is something that everybody really does need to think about, focus on, and kind of embody when you first become newly minted leader.
Yeah, well, I get two things come up for me. One is this notion of, and I love that you use the expression I love, constructive feedback, not
Yeah,
constructive critique, because too
right,
many leaders and managers start constructive, go into critique. That's where they go. The listener is not listening. You're not
right,
getting the
right.
behavioral
They're already
improvement or the
upset.
work
Yep,
improvement,
and
right? Right.
defensive.
But
Yeah,
constructive feedback, because that feedback gives you a chance to build something more than just the work improvement or behavior change.
right,
It gives you as a leader a chance to really strengthen the trust and the relationship. So you know, that really resonates. The other thought is as far as what'll get you there, and
yeah,
which I think to some degree is true. You have to look at the new things that you need to tap because you've come to this new level of leadership. At the same time, I think we make a mistake if we only focus on what we need to improve, if we
right,
only focus on our weaknesses or
right,
others. I guess, many of us are in PR, we're problem solvers. I
right,
think we do hone in to what needs to be fixed. The reality is, people and organizations, and there's statistics behind this, do much better when they start by building on knowing and building on their strengths. That's where your success is. So, something I just recently learned about you that you started your career with the Vermont Department of Environmental
yep,
Conservation and NYPIRG, the New York Public
yeah.
Interest Group. What leadership lessons did you learn at those organizations
Well,
that you
I
tap in a very, very different world today?
very different world. Although I mentioned a lot that I come out of the government nonprofit world, it very much is core and endemic to who I am as a leader, but also a person and a comms professional. So interestingly, those two jobs are what propelled me into communications. So I, at that time, was sort of chasing influence, right? I worked at the government, which was my first job, and then, moved down to the city area. And I I felt that some of the leadership inside the government was was more passive. They were passionate, but they had sort of this passive approach to the methodical way to change and to influencing what's happening. And even though they had so much influence, they weren't really able to make the changes happen, at least in a way that me in my early 20s wanted to see. So I thought, well, let me go to the nonprofit where there's, passion for days. And there was, and it was, we lobbied up in Albany and we did work. And, I was I was the representative for Westchester County and worked on the Purchase College campus. And it was a really meaningful job. What was most influential in that job was I was also a spokesperson for Nyberg and Westchester. So I was on TV and I was in the paper, and I thought, people would come and say, "Oh, I heard your radio segment, and that was really interesting about what Nyberg is doing and some of the challenges and problems that they're working to fix." And I thought, well, this is interesting. What is this sort of magical, influential thing? And ultimately, right, it was media relations, and I was both pitching it and being a spokesperson. And so that's what actually led me into comms. And so while it wasn't necessarily the leadership lessons, it was the construct that sort of led me into my very long foray into the private sector. One of the lessons I did learn there was about asking questions, though. I never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? But I do want to ask good, meaningful questions about where we're going, why we're doing things, what is our outcome. And I think that those jobs gave me a really good foundation for that, and also making connections. So particularly at the nonprofit, it was very much about making connections in the community with journalists, with students and professors and people that we were trying to influence up in Albany, some of the lawmakers. And so I think that it really gave me the ultimate focus on being a connector, which is something I still am as a leader today, and putting myself into situations where I'm just talking to people about what they're doing, what's important to them, what challenges they're facing, and asking them about it.
So something we may have in common that you probably don't know till this moment, that when I was in college, in fact, on my website under my story, there's a photo of me in a very
Oh,
ugly brown pinstripe suit. Brown pinstripe suits were never in. I don't know what possessed me. Full head of nice brown hair, brown, brown, brown. And I am the spokesperson for, I interned at Nyberg, and
oh,
we did work around Sunday, Solar Energy Awareness Day. So
oh,
talk about
okay.
grit. If you can rep Sunday, Solar Energy Awareness Day in Syracuse, where there is so little sun,
Right, so little sun. I
then,
love it.
then like, okay, I can do a career in PR, and then I can do a
Yeah, you're
real
like, I can sell sand in the
evaluation.
desert. I love it.
Isn't that funny? But we
Oh, I
got,
love it.
I was like 20, I got TV cameras out. It was amazing. Maybe they just wanted to see what is this crazy guy
Right.
talking about Sunday in Syracuse. But at any rate,
I love
that's for
it.
another day. Yeah, it was fun. Um, Last question.
Okay.
What's something surprising about Cortney Stapleton that we don't know from your LinkedIn profile or Highwire agency bio?
Well, it's interesting, and I think that folks who do know me will laugh, but I am a pretty big kid with my kids. So I have a lot of fun with them. So I am up for anything with them. So whether it's sporting games or anime con or Disney or museums or anything, I am in for it. I go with them. I dress up. I
I
am
was
a
going to ask you as
huge
a joke if you dressed up,
I
but
dress up. I am a huge supporter of everything that they are kind of into. I think I'm raising two boys in New York City, and we're going to take full advantage of it. We are sort of tourists on the weekends sometimes, and have been from a very young age. So I think it's a little contrary sometimes to my work persona, but I have a lot of fun with them. I am a big
I
kid
love
with
it.
them, and I love it. I love everything about
That's
it. I
great.
want them to, remember and have those memories.
Mhm.
And sometimes I share them in the office, my AnimeCon outfits with my youngest son, that he chooses for me. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's sort of I guess my alter ego at home.
That is great. I love it. I love it. So, if people want to get in touch with you to talk
Yeah,
about leadership or PR, whatever, what's
sure.
the best way to do that?
Email probably. So yeah, folks can send me an email. I'm still on the Bliss group email, but the Highwire email will work as well.
Can
Do
you
you want me
share
to?
what that is?
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah,
it's C Stapleton and then the little at sign, the Bliss GRP for group.com. And then my Highwire will be Courtney.stapleton at teamhighwire.com. So
great.
next week
Great.
that'll be up and running fully. We've had a very methodical IT switchover. So yeah, so either of those will work.
It's great.
And this is one of my favorite topics. And if people are listening and are interested in talking more with me about any of these things, I'm happy to.
That is great. You have been such a wonderful guest, and
Thank you.
I just want to share. If people want to get in touch with me to discuss, if it's
Yeah.
PR, don't reach out to me. Reach out to Courtney. But if it's about any of the other leader, or if you want to talk about solar energy awareness
Right.
in Syracuse, reach out to me.
Reach out to
You
Ken.
can do that, and go to the website. You got to see the photo, and then leave me a comment about it. But
I
it's
love it.
KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com, KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com, or you could find me on LinkedIn. As many of you
Oh
have
yeah,
heard me
LinkedIn.
say,
Yeah.
there are many Ken Jacobs on LinkedIn, but I'm the one with some initials after my name. And so far, I think I'm the only one. Just look up Ken Jacobs, PCC, which stands for Professional Certified Coach. And with that,
I
we
love
will
it.
say thank you, Courtney. It has been just great joy. And thank you
Thanks,
so much for
Ken.
sharing your energy and truly your leadership wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course, and until next time, keep on taking the lead.